Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. My virtual obsession, my romantic thriller, is now available on Amazon and other online retailers. This book explores the intersection of loneliness, love, and how chasing perfection through technology can lead to fantasy and reality colliding. My virtual obsession out now.
Hey everyone, it's Catherine Crestani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I'm joined by the beautiful Lexie Faith Dopp. So she is the founder of LEFA Collective, a journal company that places tools for navigating grief directly into people's hands. Lexie's products and platform help thousands of women cultivate self-love and mindful healing. The LEFA journal includes transformative prompts, beautifully designed affirmation pages, and plenty of space and support to process life's complexities. As a business owner and creator, Lexie equips her following with insights and strategies to productivity and inner confidence. Her empathy for others' hardships has grown from her life experience. She's a sibling to a brother with a disability, a divorcee, and a mum to a medically complex baby. Hard things happen, but she wants to equip women with the tools to keep showing up. So beautiful mission, Lexie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So there's so much about your journey that I love, and also that you've gone through all these hardships and then you've still come out the other side and created something that is beautiful in honoring that journey. What could have inspired you to create LEFA and the story behind that?
Yeah, so I've always been a creator, like an entrepreneurial kid who would like do bake sales and like, painting things and selling them. And I had like a photography business when I was like 10 years old with a point and shoot camera. Like I've always just been creating, and that kind of led me into marketing. And so I've always just kind of been online sharing things. And I came across journaling as a coping tool and a mental health tool when I got divorced as a really young person. And it really transformed how I coped with hard things. And I'm an oversharer, a chronic oversharer. And so, as I kind of talked about my experience online, I was so surprised by the amount of DMs I would get daily by people I didn't know. It was like a friend of a friend would say, like, oh, my friend follows you and told me to DM you and ask you for advice, or I got divorced 20 years ago and it's still hard, or, you know, my husband did this to me and what do you think I should do? And it was just all this stuff that I'm like, A, not an expert, you should go see a therapist, but B, journaling is something that really helps me. And I explained the process of it all. And people are like, oh, what journal should I get? And I'm like, well, I used this weird one that's for death. And then I crossed out all the prompts and wrote my own. So just get a journal and look up some prompts on Pinterest and like go at it. And I just got enough of those DMs that I was like, this is a need. And so I went back through my probably three journals that I journaled through my divorce and wrote down prompts and the worksheets and the practices that I would do, and created a grief journal that anyone could use. Like I said, I used a bereavement journal. And because, a divorce is like a death. It's the death of the family you thought you were building, your identity, this like really intimate relationship that you thought was going to be forever. And so there's a lot of grief that goes into that. And through that process, I learned that grief doesn't just happen when someone dies, it's any loss, big or small. Obviously, the smaller, it's less significant, and the bigger, it's more significant and changes your whole life. But long story short, I created this grief journal, and I just want everyone who goes through a loss or a major transition or change to know that you don't have to do it alone. And those crazy feelings that you have in your mind and your body are because there's emotions that society doesn't talk about, and they need to get out of your body, and journaling is a way to do it and to help you process it.
And I love that you brought up that those life changes are a type of death and grief, because I often tell my clients, you have to mourn the dream that didn't
Yeah.
happen. especially when you go through a divorce, because when you get married, you have this dream of, are we going to live together and die together and, have a family and all these beautiful things. And then it doesn't happen, or you're
Hmm.
like, okay, this is what's going to happen with my business. And then it doesn't happen. Or, and that's, I guess, the ebbs and flows of life. But I love that you address that, because so often people do dismiss it, like you said, or just, oh, well, you're not in that relationship anymore, just move on. But I feel the most powerful thing I learned was a person said to me, it can take 5 to 7 years before that previous relationship stops echoing in your life.
For sure. I feel like any hard thing that I've gone through, if it takes me, like with my daughter, she was born with a birth defect and a lot of medical challenges. And so from her pregnancy to when she got out of the NICU and PICU, it was about 2 years. And she just turned 2. And I feel like I'm just, like feeling like a normal human again. With my divorce, it was a 7-year long relationship, but the meat of it was 3 years long. And I feel like after 3 years, I was like, okay, like we can do this. So I think people need to give themselves some grace that you're not taught this stuff. Like we're taught to suck it up and move on. But also be like, if you've been in this situation for 5 years, it's okay for it to take you 5 years to catch your bearings. Like your whole life, your identity, your relationships, your community, it's gonna change. And it's okay to like give yourself a minute. And if we want to know when the light at the end of the tunnel is going to be, so it's okay to be like, you know what? I think it might take 5 years. And if it doesn't take 5 years, amazing. I'm so resilient and I bounce back faster than I thought I was going to. But to like, you don't have to be okay tomorrow. And you're not going to be okay tomorrow. And so to give yourself grace for that, I think is really important.
Yeah, so well said and so well put too. So it's having that compassion for yourself as well, right? And I can imagine being a mum to a child with special needs and medical complications. That itself is another dream that kind of got shattered, right? Because you just expect them to be born, and you know it's not easy being a mum as it is, and then you add that extra level on top, and then you have to grieve the dream that didn't happen again in that regard. Yes,
For
you have your
sure.
beautiful baby, but at the same time there's all these other things that come up through that.
Yeah, and it was a little bit of compounded grief. So if you've ever experienced something where your world falls apart and then something happens that like it can't get any worse than this and then it gets worse. My brother, who's just 3 years younger than me, has a disability. He has autism and a chromosome duplication. And so I've been a part of the disability community my entire life. My day job, I'm a marketing coordinator for a nonprofit that cares for families in our state with disabilities. So I'm like in the community. I've served my time. I have my badge. And then I'm like celebrating this beautiful baby girl that's going to get born. And then to hear that this diagnosis, it just was like, I already have this merit badge. Like, no. And so to that compounded grief is a lot, and I think that happens for so many people and it can feel so isolating, especially when no one in your circle is experiencing
Mm.
that compounded grief. It can be like, what is going on? Like, nothing good can ever happen to me. And that's just, it's not true, but it feels true and it's hard.
And sometimes, like you said, you've created this journal. This journal's birthed from all these grief processes you've had to go through. It's a form of getting it out, right? Because a lot of people don't realize if you don't feel the emotion or let it out some way, it compounds and then becomes a dis-ease in your body, which then
Hmm.
leads to other issues. And the more you ignore your emotions, the higher the volume will just keep turning until it actually gets to a point where it's like, oh, actually, this is a chronic problem now because I just keep ignoring that I'm sad, or I keep ignoring that I'm angry, because we're expected to put a mask on and show up and think everything's okay, even though it's not.
For sure.
So, a question I've got about your journal is, when you were collating it and putting all these questions together, what was kind of the intention that you wanted people to go in with when they start to use your product?
To feel relief, the journal I got, the bereavement journal, my cousin worked at a hospital and she's like, this is so weird. This is like a journal for people's moms who've died, and maybe you can like grieve your living ex-husband in here. And I'm like, yeah, we'll give it a shot. And it was just kind of sitting. I had a little shelf full of like flowers and things from all my people who were supporting me. And I had kind of been like crying myself to sleep for 2 weeks, just so heartbroken and young and sad. And I looked at the journal and I was like, yeah, I have nothing to do. Let's just like cry and write. And it was so crazy. I finished that first page. It was a guided journal. It had prompts, and I finished the first page and I felt calm. Like my nervous system had, like you said, dialed it down. And I was able to sleep that night. I didn't take like Tylenol PM or melatonin or anything, which I had taken as a last resort at 3 a.m. every morning because I had to show up to work the next day and like be a functioning human. And so once, I woke up the next morning and I'm like, huh, that was weird. So I tried it again the next night. And every night I would turn in for bed, light my candle, make like a little ritual for myself. And I'd flip through the journal and kind of read the prompts and find one that kind of like pulled at my heartstrings a little bit. A lot of the prompts I needed to cross out and rewrite because they weren't applicable to my situation. I every day I released something new. I had like epiphanies about my situation. I validated myself. I also checked myself where I had been thinking this story about like, I can't remember, but I just remember writing things and being like, girl, that's not true. Like, so there were just all these experiences that I had where I'm like, this is soothing me. This is giving me something to do. It's productive. I'm healing. I'm started like having a new vision for my life. And that's where I knew it was really powerful. So I just wanted to create something that anyone experiencing a big change or loss could go to kind of as like their emotional support tool, especially because therapy is not always accessible. This is something that anyone can do. And the tools that, are out there with the right tools, you can do it for free. If you want the journal, it's less than like a therapy copay. And so I just wanted people to find relief. Long answer short.
No, I love that. It's beautiful. And I think it's so important too because it's an invitation to come in where you're ready as well. Whereas sometimes people are off put by therapy because it's too fast, too quickly. It's
Yeah.
like, whereas a journal you can go, I'll just do one page, I'll just do one page, or I'll just flick through and have a look and think about it. But it's still there, like you're still opening up the door so that you can start to let some of that pouring out. And like you said, probably in a more affordable way as well.
Yeah. And exactly what you said, sometimes it's just, it starts the wheel turning where I know sometimes I'll write a couple sentences and it's like the breaker flips where I can finally let out the cry or I finally I hit that anger trigger where I can finally like let it out. And then either like the crying or the anger writing, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I needed. Now let's go back into like productivity mode where we can like sort this out, this crazy in my brain, where therapy, you're like mid cry and you have to keep going. I think that like both love therapy. It's the best. Professionals are great, but this is something that can support you literally any day, anytime. It's a coping tool that is healthy.
And it also takes away that, where do I start? Because you've got the prompts there. And it's like, well, I'm just going to pick which one I choose because sometimes that's what people find the hardest is starting because it can be really overwhelming when you're already in that grieving state to try and find something that allows you to step out of that freeze or step out of that fight flight just so you can feel safe and calm again because it's really overwhelming when you're in that state and it is a lot.
Yeah. And I think one thing too that I'm grateful that I was in such emotional crisis because I'm such a perfectionist, such a do it by the rules way. If I had gotten a guided journal like that when I wasn't so desperate for relief, I would have opened the first page, read the prompt, and if it like didn't hit for me, I probably would have like put it in my like gift closet and regifted it to someone whose like dog died or something. But because I was so like desperate for relief, I looked through each page and like read the prompts until I found a prompt that was pulling at my heartstrings. And then I wrote without any filter. And again, the perfectionist in me is always like, okay, you can't write that down on paper because your great great granddaughter will read it and she'll be like appalled that you're not Mother Teresa, you know? And so because I was in such crisis, I was able to just do it so authentically and the filters were down and there was no mask. And that's when the magic happened. And so that's how I'm like, if you do anything today, right? Like no one is ever going to read it. And then you can throw it away. You can
And
burn
burn
it.
it.
But that's how you are going to see a difference is like letting down your guard.
Yeah, and exactly like you said, throw it away or burn it. Or my other favorite is I've had clients rip it up and then plant something new on top. So they planted it in the garden. So it's like the compost of the crap is
That's so
allowing
cute.
something new to grow. Yeah, I love that one.
Oh
But
my
the
gosh.
burning is so powerful. Like you can't underestimate how good it feels to burn that away, or just throw something in a fire when you're done with it. And there's just something magical about the fire and it just alchemizes and it does all these cool things. But exactly like you said, and it's your journal. If you're really worried about someone reading it, just take the page out and go, thank you, I've done this, and get rid of it. No one has to see it.
And there are two pages in there that are write and burn pages. And so you can write it, you go in there knowing that no one is going to read that because obviously always want to be honest and, but there's just something, especially now being a mom, I'm like, there's some things that I just like, my daughter doesn't need to read about her dad. Like, So if I'm pissed at him, I can write it down. I can feel better. I can figure out the tools I need to communicate with him. I got to burn that page. That's totally fine. That doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you mean. But just being able to be honest with yourself and figure out what you need so that you can like go have the productive communication or heal what you need to heal is so powerful.
Yeah. And especially as a mum, sometimes there's crap that comes in your head and you just need to get it out, and even
Yeah.
if you have a partner or you don't, I have a friend and like we'll just have moments. And I said, thank you for just listening. I just really needed to get it out because I was feeling a bit cray cray. You know, I needed to get it out somehow. And if you have a friend, that's amazing. But sometimes we don't have that friend that we can super trust. So, but you can trust your journal. Your journal's not going to tell anybody anything.
And there's sometimes too where we have this beautiful community of people who love us, but no one is walking our path. I know there's been times where I know I'm supported. I know that I have an unconditional love from people, but they're still human and they still might not get it. And I might be scared to say what I think or need or feel because I don't know if they're going to get it and they're going to say something that's going to trigger me. And so having a place, where you can just write it out and be like, this is my stuff. And people aren't just going to get it and just hold that for a minute and feel held by this little pink journal. Like it's just feels nice. Even though it's like an inanimate object, it's your buddy.
Yeah, and at the same time, I get what you mean completely about people don't always understand when you're at. When I got divorced, I said that I lost a lot of my friends, not because they were
Mhm.
friends with my ex, but because it was almost like this feeling like they were going to catch divorce, because it made them insecure and made them reflect on their own relationships, and it was too much for them to handle. And then when I had my bub, I couldn't compare with anybody because we were choosing to raise him differently to what a lot of normal people do. Like it was like, I can't talk to you because you're not breastfeeding and I'm breastfeeding. So I can't compare those stories with you because you just bottle fed and you're giving me your opinion, but you chose a different route. And I'm not judging if you bottle fed or breastfeed. It's
For
just
sure.
they're not in the same boat as you. So it's like, okay, well, and the same again when you have a high needs child that's been through all that medical trauma, unless you find someone else that has had a child in a similar situation, they can sympathize, but they can't really empathize because they haven't been there. They can still show compassion, but sometimes people find that a bit tricky to do at the next level too. Yeah. And I love that your journal's pink, by the way.
Thank you. I know it's very flamboyant, it's very out there, but when I am in my deepest, darkest, I'm not seeing the light stages, I have to find things that make me happy. And so sometimes that's like finding a symbol like a butterfly or something sparkly. Sometimes it's surrounding myself with happy colors like bright pink phone case, bright pink water bottle. Or when I got divorced, I just was so sad all the time. I felt like crap, but I had to show up to work. And so I got like really bright pink nails all the time so that I could like type and look at my hands and be at work and have that like sparkly, oh my gosh, there is something happy in my life. And so I want that journal with the quotes and the colors to be like, even in your deepest, darkest moments, there are still beautiful things around you. So that's why it's so crazy looking, is because we just need to have fun sometimes, even when we're
Amen.
sad.
100%. And it's funny because just before I jumped on with you, I was running a masterclass and I made everyone dance.
I love it.
Well, it's an invitation, but really everyone's going to do it. But because sometimes just dancing and singing and having fun can be enough to pull you out of that funk. And it's, life's too serious. We need to have fun. We need to have the joy because that's when you attract more joy and you attract more things to be grateful for. And like you said, even if it's your pink sparkly nails in that moment, so be it. Stuff everybody else. If they make you happy, have your pink sparkly nails. Why not? And so if people get the journal, what would be a good place to start? What would be something, they're like, oh, I don't know if I should buy it or not. If I do, I don't know what to do with it. So what would be kind of your top tips of just jumping in?
Yeah, so my top tips are let your guard down. Like, do not write with a filter. And so once you have that mindset in place, then start flipping through the journal and just reading the prompts. We have list prompts for those days where a whole page feels overwhelming. Sometimes it's just nice to jot out a list. So there's a prompt with lists, a numbered list, and then there's typical journal prompts where you can read through them and find something that pulls at those heartstrings that you're like, this is the one. And there's also some therapeutic worksheets, like some feelings things where you just circle what you're feeling. It helps you get really self-aware, some mental health check-ins. So just like flip through the pages. And if you know exactly what you want to write about in the back, there's some free write pages. So it really meets you where you're at, and the world is your oyster in there.
I love that. And, I guess for anyone going, oh, it's really hard to journal, I want to say that it's not. Um, I journal all the time. Like I've actually got my journal next to me, just because
Yeah.
sometimes you just need an outlet and play with the thoughts.
For sure. And sometimes you procrastinate the things that you know are good for you. Like you put on your workout clothes and then you're like sitting on your phone, or you drive to the gym and then you're sitting on your phone. Sometimes you have your journal and you know it's there and you know you want to do it and it's a goal and you know it will make you feel better. But you just like, oh, I'll do something else. What I like to do is romanticize anything I don't want to do. So whether that's laundry or journaling or going to the gym, I love to make it fun and like sexy, sex it up, you know? So what I love to do is pack my tote with fun drinks, my journal, maybe a work bag, and like a fun book that I'm reading. And I'll take it to the park or I'll take it to a coffee shop or drive up the canyon and like go for a hike. And then I sit in my car and journal. Do something that you're looking forward to. Make it an experience so that it is fun for you and you can have this whole activity. And I found that in times where I'm really lonely and I'm looking for things to do, that fills my time with like actual magic, even though I'm writing about sad things. So, and then I also, another tip too is keep it in sight. Like, don't put it in a drawer because
Mm.
out of sight, out of mind. I have mine on my nightstand and it's out in the open so that when I get to bed, I see the book that I'm reading and my journal. And then I know like I should do those two things instead of doom scrolling on my phone. Because if they're in the drawer, I'm going to doom scroll. So I need them out where I can see them.
Yeah, and I love those tips because we get distracted. And it happens, and we self-sabotage all the time. It's
Yeah.
just about putting this
Guilty.
guilty. Like I had every intention of cooking a really nutritious dinner, but I'm too tired and I'm gonna go get the takeout instead.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's
Um,
okay. But I think taking accountability for that and being like, oh my gosh, I just wasted 2 hours on my phone. Information for next time. What systems are we going to put in place to do this different? You know, like don't beat yourself up. It happened. Don't say like, don't make excuses for yourself, but be like, I want to do something different. So like choose something different, you know? And if what you're currently doing isn't working for you, and you want to try journaling, choose something different, you know?
That exactly. And trust what you feel pulled to do too.
Hmm.
It's that trust. It's like, okay, maybe journaling's not for you. Maybe you want to record little voice memos and go old school. You can
Yeah,
delete them
go on
out.
a walk, go
Yeah.
get in nature and just like do a voice memo, talk and listen to it back and get reflective, get curious about it. Totally.
And let those emotions out. Let them be felt.
Yeah. And I think we have to recognize it too. I know when I started therapy, it was around the time of my divorce, and my therapist asked, like, how do you feel about that? And my mind was blank. And I was just looking at her. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. How do I not know? And she handed me this feelings wheel. It's a tool that was created by a therapist in the 80s. And I was reading all of the feelings. I felt like a preschooler who needed a feelings chart. But as I read each of the feelings, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel this one and I feel this one. It gave me all of this vocabulary to
Mm.
express how I was feeling. And that is what journaling helps me do. Even though journaling served me in different hard times of my life, it's not a tool that's like in the attic of my mind. I still need it because all of the experiences I'm experiencing now are new and I need the language to navigate them.
And that is such a beautiful point you bring up, because if we can teach that to our children to have the language for the emotions, we create better children who are able to master their emotions. And sometimes we have to label our emotions for our children too. Like if I'm really stressed, well, I had this happen where I was incredibly stressed this one weekend. We were moving offices, all these weird things. And I said to my son, he was only a couple of years old at the time. I said, look, I'm actually just feeling really stressed at the moment, and because we've got to get all this done. So if I don't spend time with you very much this weekend, that's why. And all of my staff were like, he was so good. Like, you didn't, like, he was just, I said, because I gave him the words to understand he was feeling me. So he knew
Yeah.
what I was going through. And then they are able to go, actually, that's mum's, not mine.
Well, and he knew that it wasn't about him. Like,
100%.
oh, my mom's stressed about this thing instead of like, did I do something wrong? Is my mom mad at me? Like children fill in the gaps with context clues and with the information that they have. So if the information that they have and the context clues make them think that you hate them, like how amazing that you gave them the information to say like this is why I'm acting this way and it's okay, these feelings are good, but also just FYI, like he's able to just be chill, you know?
And it's teaching him to be human
Yeah.
because it's okay. Like you said, it's okay to have those emotions because it's part of the human experience. And we're being so conditioned to believe that we have to be constantly happy and joyful and blissful. And actually, no, that's just one end of the spectrum. We want to try and find our peace and our calm so that we can just enjoy life how we choose to.
Yeah. And then there's no shame around those feelings when he experiences them because he
Yes.
knows that, like, my mom feels that and she handles it with grace and she tells me how she feels. She communicates, like, I can be stressed. I don't have to feel shame about being stressed.
And as we start to finish our time together, Lexi, I asked the guests that come on the show, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
Think shame, going back to what I was just talking about, that has been an emotion that has been coming up for me and my family a lot this past year, and how it manifests differently in men and women. And I think if we could give ourselves more grace, we would give others more grace. I know that in times of my life when I've been the most judgmental, it's because I'm judging myself to such a high standard. Therefore, I'm judging others to that high standard that I have for myself. So I think if we could have more love for ourselves and accountability, we would have love for others and heal that shame wounds,
Yeah.
the shame wound.
Yeah, it's a big one. And especially mum guilt. That's the other big one.
I know.
It's like, yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other podcast.
It
But
is a whole other podcast, but amen to that.
and if people want to come and buy your journal, Lexi, or follow you or check out what you're doing, where can they find you?
So you can get the journal at lefacollective.com, LEFA Collective. And you can use the code Catherine15 to get 15% off of your purchase. We have journals and mental health worksheets and tools. There's also a sibling journal on there if anyone has a child with a disability or a mental illness and they have other children in the home. Sometimes they're the ones that are least in crisis. And so there's a journal for those siblings. And then if you want to just hang out with me online, you can find me on all platforms. LEFA Collective is my handle for my business, and then my personal accounts are Lexie Faith Dopp.
Beautiful. And I'll make sure to put all those details in the show notes. And thank you for your generous 15% off for all our listeners. That's beautiful and amazing. And I love that you have a journal for siblings, because it is, because my background's as a speech language pathologist working with
Oh, yeah.
children with autism. So it is so true. Like a lot of the time, their parents have guilt around the siblings not getting as much attention or not getting what they feel that they need. So what a beautiful outlet to have for them, and something that honors them, the same thing, that it can be really special in their lives too.
Yeah, I'm a sibling myself. My brother, just
Yeah.
younger than me, has a disability. So I know firsthand that sometimes, parents are doing the best they can and we got to heal that stuff later. But I just know that being taught this coping tool would have really helped me in the times that our house was not as happy as a home as it could have been.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Lexie, for creating such a beautiful products, I should say products, but also putting all the experiences you've been through into such a beautiful way that other people can be supported going through the similar or just a grieving process in their life. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you looking for an afternoon boost to support you until the children go to bed, or to get through that evening meeting? Why not reach for a cup of ceremonial cacao? It will boost your energy, reduce your inflammation, and also allow you to go to sleep at a decent hour. For more information on how to grab your ceremonial cacao, check out the link in the show notes for 10% off. Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.